Sure. Okay, so hey, this is the Drupal usability meeting for September 12th, 2017. And we've collected some issues to look at. Antje has suggested 2 issues that we talk about, and Angie suggested that we talk about UX Quick Wins initiative. So I think we should start with Angie's topic, and then once if Antje arrives, we can talk about her issues.
Okay. I was not prepared for that. Okay, so basically, Dries is going to have this keynote thing in Vienna, which he usually does. One of the things that he'd like to propose are like some community challenges kind of thing. So like challenging the community to do some things that would help Drupal or Drupal adoption or future of Drupal, that kind of thing. And so one of these things he'd like to do is encourage people to get started, you know, doing usability improvements. That usability is one of the big ways to make Drupal better, and I think we're all aligned on that. However, I am a little bit nervous about, you know, like thousands of Drupal people being thrust into like the task of go make Drupal easier to use. And I would love to give them some guidance on this topic so that they're working on things that we think are important or good to do, or at least there's a process by which they can propose a change, and we say, yeah, that sounds good, so we don't end up with, you know, 500 people filing usability issues that may or may not be aligned with our usability goals. So we have the ideas queue, and that's a way to vet ideas. However, by design, we kind of make that more around big feature requests that are multi-month and kind of need a team behind them and this kind of thing. And B, we as a product management team have not done a stellar job of maintaining that queue to date. So I don't really want to throw them at the ideas queue. We also have an issue, let me find it real quick. It's been outstanding since we did the last round of formal usability testing at the Drupal, the University of Minnesota. So that is node 2497361. There is bucket loads of issues in there. I don't know how many, if any, are quick wins at all. So I'm not sure whether to propose those, but it does seem like, you know, aligning things under those general headings is probably a good idea. There's a number of ones we've talked about on this call, like, for example, adding the add menu to the toolbar, changing the toolbar to be more admin menu-like, with the float outs and stuff like that. We've talked about, well, it did get fixed in 8.4, but prior to getting fixed in 8.4, turning drop down or drop buttons into a drop down with a checkbox, and on and on and on. So I feel like we have a lot of these around. I am kind of stuck, though, on how best to A, collect the ideas we have into a central issue, and B, make it so that people like Antje, people like others who know these things are hanging around, giving them a process to escalate these so they do get into this issue, and then trying to get this issue into some kind of prior to Dries's keynote, so we have something to point people to. Because we're sprinting to Vienna, and it would be awesome if people come away from that keynote inspired to work on usability, that they had some things to work on, that we were all aligned were good things to do. So does the problem I'm trying to solve make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Any ideas on how to?
Well.
Yeah. Because otherwise, I'm really worried that if the call to action is just go make a usability issue, that's going to be fucking chaos. And I don't think that's a good idea at all. And I don't want him to not mention usability because we don't have our act together. Do you know what I mean? So like those are kind of the two extremes I want to avoid. So maybe what I'll do right now is just start a Google Doc that we can barf some ideas in.
Maybe we could give different, it could be given a different message depending on the role. I mean, a different message for content, well, for project managers, for developers, for themers. I'm pretty sure they could start doing different stuff. I don't know, maybe it could be.
Sure, that's one way to handle it. What do you think would be appropriate calls to action for those audiences?
I don't know, for example, for a developer, it will be different than from I don't know, a designer. For example, for a developer, a backend developer, it could be like tag the issue with the usability. I don't remember the tag, which one is, and then wait until it's, well, during the DrupalCon it could be different, but a developer will have to wait until the UX group reviews or give some inputs, and instead of that, for a designer, it will be come with us and decide with us. I don't know, designer or UX person or something like that. I mean, the call to action will be different.
So we could do that. We could say propose issues, tag with needs usability review, or find issues in queue with, and I feel like we need a tag for this. And I feel like we talked about this on a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we came up with like 1,000 cuts or something like that. It was like a terrible tag. But I would rather come up with a tag like UX quick wins or something like that. Maybe I'll do that and get to patching. There's also issues that like need design. That's a tag as well. Needs design.
Yeah.
Look for issues with needs design, and that is this queue. Yep. Like for example, I don't know that quick wins is the right thing, but like this issue, create file field widget on top of media entity. That would be huge from a usability point of view. Add item to toolbar would be huge from a usability point of view. So I don't know what to call these things, but it feels like we have a number of these that we could call out explicitly and be like, everyone thinks this is a good idea. Please work on it. Do we have things for project managers to do?
Good question.
Yeah. That's always the struggle. It's like,
for example, all the stuff related with well, maybe it's not project managers. Everything related with information architecture that they are working with. Anja and Rachel, maybe this could be, I don't know, I'm not sure.
So Anja's and Rachel's initiative to redesign the entire IA, I'm still kind of nervous about that as an initiative, like to like blast that from the rooftops. However, I think there's a lot of stuff within that are fine to do. You know what I mean? Like I can't think of an example, but say there was examples like move the comment settings underneath configuration instead of site building, or whatever structure, because the number of times I've clicked on fucking comment settings, meaning to click on content type settings, is like 1,000. So like getting that out of my face would be really helpful, So there's this issue to create a top level content thing like structure, although it's not universally bought into yet. But that kind of thing is what I picture going into, going into this.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
Yeah, but I feel like we need to sit down. I guess maybe, are there folks who will be around on Monday at Vienna?
Yeah.
Are you going to be there, Christina?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we could sit down on Monday in person and you, me, Ansha, and some other people, and like sit down and hash out a list just so that we can populate an issue with something, and then we can flesh it out further throughout the week. And then on Friday of Vienna, I think there is a usability sprint. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Should be one, yeah.
Yeah. So we could then work on. If people have questions on how to do this and stuff, we could work with them directly on Friday.
Yeah.
And throughout the week, obviously. And I thought Roy was gonna do some kind of a follow-up from Dries' keynote about that. I'm hearing music. I don't know if that's me. Okay. In a second, I don't know where that's coming from. Okay, little Beatles for your afternoon. Got rid of that. I don't know what I was in the middle of saying. Anyway, all right, so it sounds like we are going to meet internally, this team, on Monday, populate it. If we could even find 10 issues to work on, I think that would be a good starting point. And then, yes, and if you haven't yet, make sure you're on this nice little spreadsheet that Gabor is showing so that we know that you'll be there and that you want to work on UX. That would be fantastic. So we'll meet internally as a team on Monday to get that kind of stuff going. And then I will create an issue in the meantime that links off to those action items and also mentions, hey, we are a UX team and we meet and stuff like that. Does anybody have any better names than UX quick wins? Because they are not quick, but they're also not like redesign the whole frigging 7 theme. Do you know what I mean? UX achievable wins. I don't know what to call them.
UX improvements, or I don't know.
UX improvement, yeah.
My English is not the best idea.
I'll call them UX quick wins for now. Do I still have admin taxonomy? Let's see. Contents. Oh, it's structured taxonomy. I do not. So I have to get the tag right the first time, or because I can't edit it after. All right. Oh, I know. I can call it UX quick wins, like that, with a quick in air quotes. Because it's like, may or may not be quick, but hopefully it's easier than redesigning the entire field UI or whatever. So but anyway, if anyone wants to help me on that, I would love help, because that is going to be a significant undertaking. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to offer for now on this topic. But in reviewing those tags, I did remember another topic I wanted to talk about, but I can talk about at the end of the call. But it's a Drupal.org issue. So anyway, we can move on. Thanks for the input.
Welcome.
So we did not yet have Antje or Sam arrive. Do any others have topics for discussion?
I can keep talking about the other issue, the Drupal.org issue, if you want.
This is your chance, I guess.
All right, I'm doing it then. Let's see. Where's that issue? It's here. So this is issue number 290-7702. And the issue here I can share my screen, I guess. The issue here is that if you go to the Drupal project page, as you probably will do because it's linked prominently from download and several other places, you're going to end up on a page that mentions there's a Drupal 8.3.7 and big blue button there's a Drupal core 7.56 and a big blue button, and then there's a bunch of dev releases. And then way at the bottom is like, here's Drupal core 6.38. So, whoops, I didn't mean to click on that. So the problem is that Drupal 8 is actually currently in RC. So 8.4.0 RC1 is available for testing, and there's a bunch of stuff in here. For example, there's some changes to Symfony and jQuery underlying libraries. So ideally, I mean, I think we want a bunch of people to test this. So there is a front page post about it, but there's nothing, absolutely nothing on the project page about it, which seems very silly because if I, for example, go to Display Suite or something, I can very clearly see that there's an 8.3 version, there's also an 8.2 version. You know, I see all the version numbers that there are available. And so I filed this issue, which, not that one, this one, 2907702, kind of pointing out this problem. And Neil asked, how do we want to fix it? So this was one idea he had, which was adding a whole bunch of more text to the box, which doesn't seem like the ideal thing to do. But I don't know, because we don't want to necessarily make it super prominent. Like, we don't want it to be like this big of a box, because it is pre-release. We don't want people who are new to Drupal necessarily trying this. But we also want them to know it's there, because otherwise, literally the only way you can possibly know this is if you click on View All Releases and just like reload this occasionally. And oh, look, there's an RC now. Okay, so that's not very good. So I basically kind of threw my hands up and said, I don't know how to solve this because I'm not a designer. What I kind of expected was something like this, you know, where there's like, hey, there's the 3.1 version, and look, there's a beta version also that you might want to know about. But I would love some input on this as far as what's, you know, because I feel like even though Roy is not on the call, he would like roll over in his grave about this. Maybe I'm wrong.
He is here now.
Oh, you are here. Great. So, everybody. Okay, are you raging out right now? Anyway. I don't know how much of that you caught, but basically, yeah, I need some design, or I don't need design. Neil needs some design input on this, because otherwise it's going to end up looking like this, and I think no one wants that. So, thoughts, opinions? He suggested maybe a gray button instead of a blue, closer to the dev listings. Something to change in the download section. You know, maybe we just need a dev release link, whatever we need, like how, you know, he's got a bunch of questions and I don't know how to answer them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think having it under the development releases makes the most sense, because we want people testing it, but we don't want people thinking that it's the stable version.
Yes, exactly. So, okay, let's look at this page again. So we've got recommended releases. We definitely don't want it under there, right? But under development releases, we do want it there.
So I wonder if we could make a kind of more prominent banner under development releases that says something along the lines of, hey, we have an RC, we'd love for people to test this, to kind of encourage people so they actually have an interest and a reason to think it'll be helpful.
Yeah, that sounds good. So when you say banner now, do you mean, is there another page on Drupal.org that has a similar banner style to what you're talking about?
We have the kind of banners that appear at the top, but that's not what I would do there.
Yeah, like we have like, where's an example? There's got to be a project that doesn't have security coverage.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of the message banners, but those, I don't think there's one running on D.O right now.
Okay. So you do not mean.
Maybe another simple option would be to have for this short period, and so you have the recommended ones, you have the development ones, and in between you have the one version that's open for testing.
Okay. And what would we call that?
It wouldn't need any of the design. It would just need a wording of like the for this version is open for testing.
So we need a heading, and then we need some text here if we're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Heading would be test releases or upcoming releases, maybe upcoming releases. And then
it is already released, but test release would be or release candidate. I mean, it is called RC.
Let me try Firebug.
Or is that too simple?
No, I don't think that's. I think that's great. I like simple. Just let me hold on. I still call this firebugging, even though it's Chrome, because I don't care. Anyway, so you're saying instead of development releases?
No, in between, like keep the development there, but above that have, while we have a release candidate, have another headline. And that can have a short description text saying this is going to be this. We want feedback on this, and then the link for the release candidate version underneath.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to do that. It's a great idea. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. There we go. Okay. So it would be like this. Upcoming releases. Is that going to do anything? No. F you! Okay, anyway, we're going to have to use our imagination then, because I'm not. Oh, it worked! Shit! Cool. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I got very excited there. Okay, and then we'd say these releases need wider testing, but are not yet available for development or ready for production. Something like that.
Maybe just. Mm-hmm. And maybe just add also the date on what is the time frame for this. That would even give some additional information.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How would we do that? We
and
just
then
edit it every time, I guess. But okay.
Yeah.
So.
And then it wouldn't be visible once we don't have a release candidate. So in that period, you wouldn't see it.
4th, 2017. Something like that. And then will we have like one of these big ass buttons, you think, or a smaller ass button, or?
Yeah, in that case, I would make it like the secondary buttons, so in gray.
I'm really trying hard. I feel like I should be handing this over to Emily or someone who actually knows. This is painful. God. All right, hold on. Edit this text. Okay, no, editation. I remember this. P tags, mother. All right, and then we're gonna do pasty thing, and then we would say Drupal core 8.4.0 RC1 released whatever day it was. It was like September 1st. I don't know. And then we would make the back there. It's like style equals background color 9999 or something like that. Okay, well that's awful, but something like that, where it's like a smaller button and it's in the middle of that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, but to me that makes sense.
That makes sense to me. Now let's defer to Christina, Yoroi, or Emily. Do you think something like that would work? Or should we try it a different way?
I think that works. I think it may not draw attention to it if we really want to encourage people to test, but I think it does let them know that that exists. So that's an improvement.
So I think this could also be coupled with your idea, which was, you mean like a banner across the top, kind of like we do when we do a membership drive or something. That's like, hey, RC1 is available for testing, click.
Right, exactly.
See, that makes sense to me too, because like right now we actually do want everyone to test RC1, I think. I can see not doing the banner until RC1. Like you don't want necessarily any random Yahoo who comes to Drupal.org to be, installing alpha Drupal 8 releases on their sites. Okay, I like that. Do you remember what that style looks like? I just can't remember. I remember it's big and something though.
Yeah, I can pull up an example of it. I have some old screenshots from when we were working on it.
Okay, cool. So that sounds great too, as like a call to action. Because I think the more bugs we can flesh out in advance of Vienna, the easier it's going to be to get this to stable. Because it's basically going to come out the week after Vienna. So that would be good. Okay. Other opinions?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards that latter proposal as well, where maybe, on top of the page, there could be something like Drupal 8.4 is coming soon.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you mean like a site-wide notification, or do you mean just on this
No.
project page?
Well, if one feels that there should be a site-wide promotion, that's something else. We're fixing the problem of making RCs available, right? Or linking them. I'm not sure about promoting them, but.
So what Emily's showing here is
Okay.
is what a site-wide banner would look like.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're interested in fleshing out as much as possible, then maybe having a site-wide banner. Okay, here's your 2 weeks chance for fleshing this out, or 3 weeks, and that can be come to the download page to actually say, okay, here's the version you're looking for. Don't people to find this banner and then get stuck on the where do I find it? I think it would be worth trying this out for.
You cut out for me a bit, Ancha. Could you say that?
Yeah. I think it would be worth trying this out 3 weeks to flesh all of this out. So maybe for this release candidate, trying out how much we get if we have a site and a clear download link for this is the version we want you to test. And if that goes wrong, we don't do it again for the.
I almost got what you said, except I missed it because you said we should do the site-wide and then see how it goes, or we should not do the site-wide and see how it goes?
Site-wide banner as well as the button on the download page.
Both. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, if we do the site-wide banner, we would still have to do it on the releases page as well.
Yeah, I think either way we want the releases page to say something.
Because where would this site-wide banner link to?
Well, it would link to, so here's what I picture. It would say Drupal 8.4 is coming October 7th, 2017. And then the big button would say download RC1 today or something. You know what I mean? It would be like, or help test RC1. Sorry, Emily, what was that?
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, help us test now or something like that would be a good action item.
And then what it would link to is the RC1 release notes, I think. Because I think from this page there's a down, So it would link here. And then if we do an RC2 release, we'd have to update the link then. Okay. So in terms of this page, are the designers, I only want to hear from the designers for a second. Are the designers okay with an extra heading here called upcoming releases that has some words that we can bike shed in the issue? And then instead of a big blue button, we do like a gray or somehow subtler button that says Drupal core 8.4.0 RC1. And then on the side here would say something like, release candidates are aimed to be production ready, but may still have critical bugs, or whatever the wording is. We'd pull it from the other place.
Yeah, the only question.
Yeah, I think that sounded.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that sounds good with the light gray that we have for a secondary button, so that would
You know
work.
where I can find an example of a secondary button so I'm not like making up stupid shit? Like, is there a place on the site I can go to?
That is a good question.
Okay.
Isn't that it's the same kind of blue as we have the admin theme that has a primary and secondary buttons? I'm all for consistency, so.
Drupal.org is Drupal 7, so I don't know.
We could maybe steal from the what's on the front page, the more news button.
Okay, let me look at that.
Yeah, the main secondary button for the theme is, it's the
This here?
it has the blue border.
Yeah.
That is the normal secondary button.
Perfect. So if I screenshot more news, he'll know what that means?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, awesome.
Now, if we give it a different button and we clearly label and explain that this is an RC, does it still need the RC heading? Or could it be under the recommended releases?
That is a good question.
Because we're categorizing and categorizing and categorizing.
So meaning just keep it here.
Yeah, make it the third
Probably
in
on the
this
top
one.
of the list, because I'm certain the list is probably sorted. Like,
but it's not a recommended
Well,
release. The recommended
that's the problem. It
something you
says
want to
these are
use in
stable and
production.
well tested.
yeah, I don't
No.
I think we do need a new heading because it's not, and that addresses XJM's worry here was, we do want to funnel most people to 8.3.7. And I feel like having that at the top does that. So I think we do need a different classification. We can bike shed what we want that classification to be, but I mean, it is a development release, so we could also stick it at the top of the development releases column. Do you want to do that, maybe?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
But see,
maybe
then it says
we're
only use
overdoing
it
it
for a
in
developer, and
labeling.
for sure you know what you're doing. And that's not actually true. Like, in theory, I would want every single person who uses Drupal 8 to try this out on their staging environment, not on production. But I definitely want them to try it in a real world scenario, because that's how we're going to find the really stupid ass bugs we're going to find October 8th or October 7th at 1 hour after we release Drupal 8.4. But in general, development releases are not stable and only use if you know what you're doing. So I agree with that heading for dev releases. I don't agree with that heading for sure betas and RCs. Alphas maybe also. That's why I was trying to think of a heading that can cover all three of those scenarios, because basically I think once we have a tagged release of any kind of 8.5, we're going to want it to show up here in this mystery section.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a big difference between 8.5 Alpha 1 and 8.5 RC 1. So I think we need to wrangle with that somehow.
And the alphas would still be in development release, or also something else?
That's why I'm trying to think if there's a heading we could say which would cover all of the bases. That's why I was thinking upcoming releases, because alpha, beta, and RC are all upcoming.
And
even though one individually,
would both the alpha and the beta be in the list, or only one?
only one at a time. Basically,
so we could always say Drupal 8.5 is coming.
Yeah.
Help us test it.
Okay, so we could have the heading, or what would we? You want to get away from a heading, so you're thinking this.
No, I'm okay with a heading.
Oh, okay. So the heading is 8.x.0 is coming. Help us test.
Yeah.
Okay. Go back to my fire buggy thing. I don't remember where that went. God, that's so awful. Okay. But anyway, instead of upcoming releases, now, come on. Also, I want to stop talking pretty soon, because I know we have a lot of things to get to on the agenda, and this is taking a little longer than I thought, but this is great. This is exactly the feedback I was looking for. So Drupal 8.y.0 is coming. Help us test. An exclamation point, or should we be demurred?
Yeah, it can be human.
Okay. And then say, yeah. Okay. And then the button the right way, not the way I have it. The button being the one from the homepage, the secondary button. I think that sounds perfect to me. Is everyone cool with me suggesting that then?
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, and then if you have further thoughts on bike shedding language, the place to do it is whatever the issue was that I said because I can't find the link to it anymore. 290-7702. Cool. Thank you very much.
All right, and then Antje proposed 2 issues to talk about. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I can do that. The blog page that has the user interface standards. They have been established for Drupal 7, and most of the individual problem. So my idea was to actually go through these standards and first of all change the order of saying, okay, this is what you should do, and then say the reason why, and then give some positive examples. On the kind of too long didn't read, but I did see how I should do it. And then I would think we could actually, for the sprint in DrupalCon, go through the core issues to see whether they're actually following the standards or whether the standards have changed, and have basically, therefore, a number of small issues that people can actually work on during the sprint. So that would be not so much in core itself, but it would be kind of taking and making this user interface standards page something that we can do if there's a problem with a module. We can, the delete button should always look like this, or the drop down should look like this. So that was my idea of something to do between now and the sprint as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of problems on this page.
Yes. Yeah, that also comes because the summary that goes onto the front page. So. Do you think it's too big issue to tackle for the DrupalCon sprint?
I think if it's a matter of documenting what we already know, that should work. The question is if we already know what we want to document.
Well, the things we already have on this page to see whether they still correct for Drupal 8 and not for Drupal 7. And then like the one with the first steps. But yeah, if it's also just say that maybe some people want the coming months or so.
You're breaking up quite a bit, Antje. It's hard
Yeah,
to
unfortunately, I'm on a horrible hotel network in Negro. So it was, and it just came up to me as an idea of what I would like to work on during the sprint, and I thought I'd throw it into the discussion for here. Okay, I think I'm just going to write it up more in detail of what my plans are a week again, if that's better.
I think that makes sense. It's clear this page needs work, and I think it's also a very good place for well, basically on-ramping people who would like to understand more, right, of the design and how Drupal works, or how it is supposed to work. Because if we have our interface and that to contrib, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Where maybe if the designer in the agency where the developer has this nice little contributed module that he or she likes to work on, and the designer could help review it and make changes to smaller contrib modules, etc. So.
Yeah, I've now come across contrib modules that, for example, have lead bar text, or I think web form has 2 drop-down menus next to each other. Kind of strange quirks that would be much easier if we could say this to a page that actually is relevant for Drupal 8.
Are you
around some bike shedding?
Are you collecting those examples of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll come back.
Yes, let's revisit it soon.
Okay, great.
But it's a great sprint topic. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it for me for this one.
Okay, thanks.
All right, do we want to talk about the content admin menu item issue as well?
Yeah, they actually just wanted to know what the state of things is, because it's pending on needs product manager review. I mean, if it needs more talking through, then I think Rachel and me would also be happy to meet up with you face to face in during DrupalCon. Otherwise, we don't want to put work in if the decision is like, well, no, this doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, I had it on my list, and then then the whole list disappears, and I start another list.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that to your attention again, that you have a pending issue there.
Yes, that's fair. Let me try and revisit it. I think the general idea is sound, and we need to hash out some details, but I think it's a very worthwhile thing to pursue. So I'll give it a look over this week.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else?
No, not from my end.
So I've been trying to produce a very quick demo of the issue that Angie put in chat, which may or may not work. But I need a couple of seconds to set up the test site. I've been trying to get there in the background. So that's the workflow usability problem with transitions. So let's see. This issue. Yep. So the issue itself is redesign workflow configuration page to better visually describe the flow, number 275863. And the problem is you have the transitions here, create new draft, publish, archive, restore to draft, restore. And there's a list of from and to states here, and you can have multiple from and one to state. And these are all the transitions that you can have. Then you go into edit the transition, and it's this bare bones checkboxes and radio buttons, which, by the way, work pretty well. But it's hard to visualize what happens here and what happens to what could happen in this workflow. And obviously, it would be nice to have something along these lines where all the transitions are shown. But so far, the proposal has been to redesign this with an interface that shows you the from and to states. So this has been presented by Kevin O'Leary before on this meeting. So you have draft and published and archived to draft. And you can uncheck and set this transition up differently, and it animates and moves this line across, etc. And similarly for publishing and for archiving. And there's been some concerns with the accessibility of this solution because there's nothing other than color and this line showing what's going on, and these will not be accessibly available. And this is a whole new pattern of tabs that's not available anywhere else in Core. So the issue transition to making some key changes to this UI to here. Maybe we can see this better, yeah. So you could have a checkbox or some other kind of visual clue of what's checked. So it's not just the color of the item that indicates that you have it checked. And for this to appear like a select box, because it is a select box, and we can still keep the lines between them showing what's going on. And then we could use vertical tabs, which is an existing pattern in Core for the different states. And then Boyan proposed to have buttons to add transition and delete transition up here. And delete would act on this transition, and add would add a whole new transition and create a new vertical tab here. So there's a lot of activity going on here. And I think the latest thinking here was to try to break this down to smaller items, because it's a lot of things at once, and will be hard to implement all at once. So I guess primarily we would love to have feedback on the issue and then help in breaking it down to manageable chunks and figure out what to do with it.
Can I bike shed on color? All the other buttons we have in the admin interview phase in this kind of blue of a primary link. So add transition, I would expect on the left and blue. And however, I wouldn't use the blue ones, because to me, blue is a link to click on that will do something. For the rest, I think the tabs and with the lines is quite nice and very visible. Those colors, if I would click on published, I would assume that something gets published, just because those colors are consistent things already. Colors.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think the buttons for add transition and delete transition are somewhat of a view style buttons, like similar interactions appearing in views. And the prior version that Josef proposed had the delete transition button on the side and the add new transition at the bottom, where you are like looking at all of your tabs and you don't have the transition you want, and then you arrive down here, and Boyan said that maybe visually grouping these buttons in the bar.
Plus everywhere else we have the add something new at the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the challenge here is this appears in the middle of a page where you edit all the other things for the workflow. So at the top would be the top of this section maybe, but not the top of the page.
Yeah, the top of the section would still be consistent, but just not underneath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't think the arrows got lost intentionally in Boyan's visual, I don't think. That's probably unintentional. Yeah. Yeah, so I think there's some implementation already here, but this would need a lot of work to get into a patch state. So this is a code pen. It has some HTML and some CSS and stuff like that. But certainly need a lot more work, and then certainly need to be broken down to smaller items so we can figure it out. I think we can make it like vertical tabs and put the existing form in the vertical tabs if we want. What we are losing with this interaction is ordering items, because we used to be able to order items so they appear in some logical order for transitions. But I haven't seen if that was taken into account. No, it was not. So let's make that remark. Antje, are you going to post your feedback on the issue?
Yeah, I can do that tomorrow.
Any other notes? Well, if not, then I think we are at the end of the hour. So thanks everyone for attending. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And see you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.